Well, hello my fine gardening friends. How the devil are you? Welcome to another beautiful morning here in equally beautiful Nova Scotia. You've caught me as I'm just putting some seaweed around my potato plants, seaweeding them up. Oh, here comes Mrs. F from her morning run, but once the car goes past, yes, I'm putting seaweed around my potatoes, earthing them up, but with seaweed. You know, the old experiment I normally do every year. One half earthing up with normal earth, one half earthing up with seaweed, etc. So I'm on probably the last time I'll be doing it this summer. I reckon soon I'll be digging these up, and I've just noticed some actual, as well as a weed there. Got some tomato plants coming up, even flowering, that have self-seeded this year, which is quite good, and one over there. But we are halfway through July. Can you believe it? I can't. Things like the potatoes are going well. Most of my veg is actually doing really well, but a few non-successes. I'll call them non-successes rather than failures. So why don't you let me finish this quickly, and then I'll go on and we'll have a little look around the garden, see what's doing well and what's not doing well. See you in a minute. Okay, so not really a minute, more a second as we transition. But enough of the ins and outs of editing. One of my successes in the garden, I don't know if you guys saw a recent video I did, just sort of showing when you can tell your onions are ready. And these are just about ready now. As you can see over there, I've got some onions that are already I've pulled out, drying off now, so I get a nice papery skin on the outside so that I can store them all the way through the autumn, you know, as and when I use them. And here we've got another one here that we can see it's flopped over. That's how I can tell it's ready. And as you can see, the rest of the onions, they're starting to flop over. The reds are going first. And like I said in my original video, I'm not going to get massive ones because I've planted a load in one space, and I planted them in the multi-sowing formats. But the white onions are mostly bigger than the red ones, but they're doing really well. So I'm just sort of trying to eke the very last bit of goodness out of these onions, and then I'm going to whip them all out, give the bed a refresh, and then I'll be planting bush beans in there, I do believe. But there we go, onions are looking good. And you know, as I see one flopping over like that, I know it's not going to grow anymore, so then I whip it out. Right, on to one of my failures. No, sorry, non-successes. Okay, so peas, one of my non-successes. As you can see, we're a bit sparse on pea bushes, or whatever vines we call them, and that's because they keep dying off. I planted them a bit late this year. I'm not sure if that's anything to do with it, but let me see here. Yeah, keep getting a bit of a sort of disease, and the peas go like that, as you can see. I've never experienced this before, so, and I haven't quite looked it up yet, but these ones and over the other side where I've got my mixed bed with all different veg, have all caught a bit of a disease. These ones are still clinging on. There's one there that I've got to pull out in a minute. Again, that's got the same, gone yellow and a bit of a disease, but there we are, a non-success. Not doing very well. I like my peas as well. There you go. On the other side, I've just planted up some of my sort of spare tomatoes. I need to stake them because obviously you can see starting to get a few tomatoes on them. So you know, they're doing all right. And I've left the coriander that just randomly grew here because that'll attract lots of pollinators with the flowers, and then hopefully they'll go to the tomatoes and pollinate them. The same with my oregano here. Beautiful, lovely mauve flowers. So I like to leave them in, brush past that, Oh yeah, beautiful smell. And the pollinators, again, got to give them something to feed. More coriander that's gone to flower there, and or cilantro as they call it in North America. And obviously these flowers will create coriander seeds later on, and I'll harvest them and crush them up or leave them as coriander seeds for my cooking and my beautiful curries. So there we go, some non-successes and some things that are doing okay. Now on to the potatoes, and the potatoes seem to be doing okay. As you can see, I've filled this side of the bed up with seaweed. Now I don't bother rinsing the seaweed off. One bit of rain and it'll all wash through. Never had a problem with it. So, you know, I'll just use it exactly the same as the earthing up. And I'll show you over there, I've used it as a mulch around my asparagus as well. But the potatoes seem to be doing all right. I think a few of them might be starting to just about flower. So that'll be ready for them to harvest soon anyway. I need to put some more potato earth around the potatoes actually on this side. But there we go. So round to the carrots. I didn't have an auspicious start with the old carrots, but we had a bit of rain and some germinated, and we got lots going. I've already harvested some carrots as and when I liked, purple ones, and they were absolutely delicious. Roasted with a little olive oil, some garlic and thyme. Mwah, absolutely beautiful. And you can even put a bit of orange juice on there as well. But they were lovely. This side I've got some sort of semi non-success. So I've got some bush beans in here. These were the only ones that actually, one, two, three, four. I did have a few rows of them, but only 4 plants germinated. So now what I have done, all 5 plants, is I've planted some more. Need to water that today, and hopefully they'll germinate in the next few days or week or so. But the carrots are good. I've got some bush beans, so that's good. But there we go. So here we have the asparagus. Obviously I've let that grow out now. I need to stake this asparagus because I don't want it like here. A couple of bits have fallen over and I don't want it to break and then ruin the plant. So if we just go around here, excuse me, through the jungle, you can see I've mulched, just put a mulch of seaweed down. And again, that's going to feed the plants now, feed the soil rather, and the soil will feed the plants. You know, all the microorganisms will start to take things down, the rain will wash it down, it will protect, give the plants a bit of protection now, the roots, some nice shade, etc. So this is very good if you got access to seaweed, a very good mulch. And I also got a load, I'm going to be making up some seaweed tea as well. So very good as a fertilizer, a liquid fertilizer, good stuff. But I need to stake these asparagus, and they were absolutely delicious this year. Up we get here. So just here, got a 2x10 bed. That is the autumn fruiting raspberries, growing away really well. Hopefully last year, absolutely spankingly good harvest of raspberries. Coming out in left, right and centre they were. So hopefully that'll be the same again this year. Look what we got here, blackberries. Blackberries by the 100. All over here. So, one thing I've got to do is I need to put a net over this soon, because the birds will soon have this lot away, I think, if I don't net these properly. So that is, so blackberries grown on last year's stems, and these are this year, so I need to sort of stake these in, keep them nice and neat, and they will grow next year's raspberries. I'm a bit haphazard on this bed. I need to sort it out a bit. Strawberry bed, strawberry cage. Oh, tons and tons and tons of strawberries this year. Absolutely delicious, beautiful as you can see. They are just harvested, really the last of them over the last couple of days, hanging on. And but they were delicious, so that was a really good success. Here is lettuce, etc. So I need to water the bed. I need to thin these out a bit. I'm going to do that later. Pull up these spinach which are no good now, and then I'm going to re-sow some more. Obviously this time of year now it's warm. Lettuce doesn't really like it, and this spinach and rocket doesn't. As you can see, it's not growing really well. Going to seed here because they don't like the heat and they want to immediately go to seed. So I need to think about something else I want to plant in here now. These will grow. I just need to thin them out a bit more. I've been pulling out leaves to eat, and on the edge here I had some spare runner beans, and I need to put up some decent canes over there, otherwise they'll have nothing to climb up properly. This is a flower bed for cut flowers, not as much as I normally have in there, but I've got some sunflowers coming up, so later on we'll have some sunflowers. I had some spare gladioli bulbs, so I bunged them in there. More sunflowers. And here there's been a bit of a nursery for some cuttings. So these are some box cuttings. So I'm really pleased that these have taken. 1, 2, 3 box cuttings have taken, and these are dogwoods. So a few of the dogwoods have taken, so they're good down there. So again, plants are free, happy with that. Need to get rid of those weeds. But there we go. This side mostly successful, except for the peas and a few of the bush beans, but a good amount of plants already eaten and growing now. Onto the greenhouses and my mixed beds, which are over there. So behind me we've got the greenhouse, my first greenhouse, and my mixed bed. And as you can see, I have all sorts of different things in here, onions, kale, etc. And in fact, let's have a proper look, shall we? So, as I've said, this is my mixed bed. Here are my peas. I've already pulled out a load of diseased ones. These are the survivors, still going strongish. Let's hopefully they'll be all right. And on the side here, I've got a not so doing very well runner bean. I don't know if that's a runner bean or a purple bean actually, but these runner beans are starting to climb up and flower. Same here and here. So hopefully by the end of the season this will be the usual plethora of the running beans, the runner beans and purple beans. And you know, as you can see, ooh, just noticed a bit of a breakage here, to fix that. But usually that'll be covered by the end of the season, as you can see, by all sorts of runner beans, etc. And if we look up there, that one's grown all the way to the top already. So I better get that one in. What else have we got in this bed? So kale is doing very well. I need to cut a load of that stuff. I don't know why I grow it. As I always say, I don't particularly like kale that much. But so I might actually pull one whole plant out and replace it with basil. So in here I've got some bush beans and some basil. They're both bush beans. That is spinach. Obviously it's got too warm for that. Some little tiny Tim tomatoes. They are doing well. Along here, some purple basil in there. Onions, of which I need to harvest a load of those. Onions, more kale there. Some basil behind there. There's a sunflower that I should harvest. I want to move that actually because I've got one big sunflower here, as you can see. That is growing crazy. I like to have a sunflower in my veg beds. Tomatoes. Need to do a bit of pruning on those tomatoes. They're getting a bit out of control. So I'll have tomatoes here, all along here. So I want them growing up either side, as you can see. And I've got tomatoes along here. I need to stake a few more of them. So they're doing all right. Here's a sage that seems to like it here. It's been flowering for the last few weeks. I need to cut those flowers off. More onions. Nothing in this bed at the moment. I might put some What might I put in there? I might put some lettuce, because it gets quite shady actually, because the trees here obviously growing taller. My sort of design schoolboy error, making this greenhouse a bit this far that way. The trees are getting taller. In a few weeks time these will be in shade for quite a bit of time, and lettuce and that don't mind that, so that's what I'll probably do, plant it up with some lettuce for some autumn harvest. More tomatoes this side. I've got a load of peppers in here, but they don't seem to have done very well. But the tomatoes are starting to grow now, and once they get above that line there, they'll be in the sun a hell of a lot more, and they'll produce a good amount, as they normally do. They should do. So let's have a look in the greenhouse. Got a bit of a good amount of stuff going on in the greenhouse. So a bit of an experiment. I've got tomatoes in here which I've grown before, but I'm actually just not going to prune them. I'm going to see what happens. So as you can see, they're a bit of a jungle, and I've got in the bed here, I've got basil that I've just planted up, purple basil from a bit older, some tiny tin tomatoes. Again, look at these pepper plants, looking like they're loving it in here. Wish I'd planted more in there, because these are the same as these ones here, and look at the difference. Absolutely amazing. I had these in little pots a little bit longer, but even so, these are doing markedly better and starting to flower soon, so I'm really pleased with them. Always got to make sure that I have this door open and plenty of water for these in here, because obviously it gets really hot and they can frazzle like they have a few times. But no, everything's doing all right. Leave the door open and I get plenty of pollinators coming in as well, and that's why I leave that coriander flowering to encourage them to come in. There we go. Happy with the greenhouse. These are starting to come on since I bought these down here from the top greenhouse. These have improved markedly, and I'm sure they'll grow along nicely once they get going now. Right, on to the top greenhouse. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I haven't made any progress with the renovation of this area here because of my hernia operation. Oh, tell you what we have got. Garlic up the other end, haven't we? So more asparagus. See, letting that grow out. So here we have garlic, and I think this is just about ready to harvest. Starting to look a bit ropey actually, and I'm getting a bit of rust. So if I've got a bit of rust on them, then they're not really going to grow much more, get much more goodness out of them anyway. So I should be harvesting them in the next week. Got some beetroots in the corner there, they're doing nicely. Not sure what I might put some broccoli in here after I've harvested and the garlic and then renovated it, etc. But the garlic looks like it's grown strongly. Like I said, it's got a bit of rust now, so I might as well harvest it rather than leave it in there. So the last part of the veg garden tour, the upper greenhouse, and as you can see from the jungle behind me, the tomatoes are absolutely loving it here. I've got a little one, can you see that one? Yeah, got a little one in a pot here, but all the rest of them behind me, obviously with the bigger central raised bed, are reaching for the roof. Let's have a little look around in here, shall we? So coming in, just on the right here, I've got lots of different pots of basil. They're all starting to do nicely. I've pinched them off a few times, taken the bits so that it'll make them nice and bushy. And down here I've got more basil. Just love lots of basil. This tomato's doing well enough. Got I think that's a Roma, that one, something like that. But in here I had a bit of a problem because after I had my hernia operation I couldn't get here and put the ties in early enough, and got a bit of a jungle going on, so I've still got to cut a few back, cut off some suckers, etc. And I've also got a bit of a white fly problem, as you can see on my peppers. I've put some whatever you call bacterial soap stuff on there, but all the same didn't have the problem down in the other greenhouse, but I get it on here and on purple basil up here. So hopefully the soap stuff will get rid of it. But the tomatoes are all growing nicely. Still, I've got lots of tomatoes already coming, as you can see, down here. So being in the greenhouse, they still get, you know, if I leave the door open, still get lots of insects in here. Some bigger ones coming here. But yep, they're all growing nicely. On the side here, we've got more pepper plants, more basil, pepper plants, a tomato. Everything's starting to do nicely. More pepper growing nicely. Yeah, this is a bit of an experiment. This one I've pinched off. This one I'm growing as a single stem. See which one gets the most peppers. And again, single stem there. So lots of tomatoes coming here and there. Looking forward to all of those. And over this side here, got mostly the little tiny Tim cherry tomatoes. Lots of fruit coming there, excellent. There's the purple basil, again with the white fly on it. And I've got planted some ordinary basil in between. Got some gladioli spare ones. I just thought I'd plant there, see how they'll do for cut flowers. I've got a grapevine growing up there, need to tidy that up a little bit, but mostly tomatoes in here at the moment, and they're all doing marvellously. So there we go, bit of a July tour around the veg garden. I haven't got an extensive range of veg this year. Lots of things have sort of taken over me, you know, and being behind on what I'm doing, but the onions have done really well. Strawberries, you know, they're perennial, they're doing really. The potatoes are doing well. Tomatoes are growing nicely now, and I think in the next little period we'll be having some fresh tomatoes. The one tricky thing there is, you know, with salsas and stuff, I love tomatoes with coriander, etc. And obviously the coriander or the cilantro is going over to flower and it's not producing as much in the way of leaves now, so there's always that bit of a difficult bit there. But I can still get lots of nice salsas with the basil, etc. now, so that's growing nicely. Carrots, good. Asparagus were great this year again. So things are growing nicely now. I've got some cucumbers in. I didn't actually show those, but they're a bit small because I planted those late. But I'm happy. Peas are a bit of a downer. Runner beans, obviously they're growing strongly now. So everything is doing well enough, I think. Well enough indeed. So hopefully you found that interesting. If you did, you know, give us a like and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Have a little look at the next minute or so's video at the end of this one. Other than that, all I have to say is jobs are good. And I think I might go and have a nice cup of tea in the shade and watch my boy in the pool for a little bit before I carry on gardening. That's always fun on a Sunday. Jobs are good. Hello. So I'm hoping you enjoyed that video and that you maybe have enjoyed some of my other videos on my channel. And if you have, I thought you might like my book, The Optimistic Gardener, A Gardener's Journey Through Throat Cancer. Yes, I know, it sounds a bit of a serious subject, and obviously it is, and it was pretty painful at the time, but I wrote it to try and hopefully inspire other people with cancer or just general problems that they've got in their life, and how being a gardener and being in the garden can help you get through these problems. And it helped me magnificently to get through the throat cancer, and this greenhouse in general helped me, the building of it during the time. So I wrote about it. There's a bit of humour in there. There's a bit of some gardening tips, some my sort of mental tips to get through problems, and a few stories from my old life in the Royal Navy to spice it up a bit. So there we go. The Optimistic Gardener, a gardener's journey through throat cancer, available on Amazon at a reasonable price, wherever you are, hopefully in the UK, in Australia, in Europe, in America, it's available. So check it out. Job's a good one.